with me. So we're just going to go ahead and say, hey, Bernard, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, sir, and you are a great technical director, by the way.
Thank you. Well, when you're doing this, I don't know. 8 months ago, I was just a little tiny nobody, and now I'm a slightly more, but slightly less tiny nobody. But what I need is a crew. I did a little thing on there today about. I put an Instagram up there about bios for people because I can't imagine over your career how many different folks you've taken a look at and all that kind of stuff and had to kind of assess whether sometimes probably quickly whether this is somebody I should get to know better. And I'm going through bios all day long looking for great guests. Right, what makes my show great is the guest. You know what I mean? I talk too much for a host, but I'm a pretty good host. But I'm swiping through these things and I'm like, look, hit me in the first line with that bio. You got to give me some reason to stick. And then I see these bios too, like on Clubhouse, and they're like a mile long to get to their contact info. I'm like, just make it bright, you know, show me how awesome you are, and give me a reason to stop. Uh, and here we are. But um, Bernard Porter, you have been in the music business for a while, I think.
You know, I've literally been in the entertainment business my
Hmm.
entire life. I mean,
Really?
I can show you a picture as a 2-year old where my mother was putting me into commercials, and I have footage of these old
Uh-huh.
commercials that I did as a baby model. And my mother was a Southern gospel concert promoter, so I saw the behind the scenes. I,
Ah, so there's a family tie to entertainment.
to a degree, it was.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the stuff that I saw through my mother's work um, was not good, actually.
Okay.
I saw a lot of the bad stuff behind the
Uh-huh.
scenes.
Oh, you mean behind the scenes bad stuff. Oh, yeah.
Shockingly.
Yes, 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 yes. I worked in concert sound for a few years, and yeah, you can see a lot of bad things behind the scenes sometimes.
I always tell people coming into this business that it is truly it's treated as a jungle. The jungle can be beautiful, but the
Hmm.
jungle can be dangerous. And you really need to understand how to posture yourself in that jungle. And when you can relate to people that are mentors that have lived in that jungle and can tell you to stay away from the quicksand, tell you to not go down where the tigers are hanging out. There's value in those mentors. And this is why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason in those circumstances, is to learn. Because you can get hurt in the jungle, but the jungle is also a beautiful place.
Yeah, well, I like that. That's an interesting metaphor around that. The um, maneuvering around, like, well, you've known tons of people that have had good careers in this industry, so it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this. But for first, for me and everything, you're 100%. I'm beginning to really understand that you do need a mentor, you need a tribe, you need a group. Even if you are just a one woman show, you know what I mean, and you're writing it and you're directing it and everything. I mean, still somebody's got to move that light for you. You know what I mean? Like you have to have a team and a tribe and people that are experienced and that even for me, like I was saying off camera here, that I need more people just to help me do this. What do you think what are the kind of top few mistakes that artists, musicians kind of make when they're trying to get into the business?
Well, I think that we first have to go back and understand that if we're talking about artists, if we're talking about being an actor or an actress, if we're talking about anything with under the entertainment heading, that it's not just about the craft or the talent. It's about the work ethic. It's about the integrity. It's about from the moment you get up in the morning of having your feet on the ground and proclaiming this is going to be a great day, having a
Mm.
positive outlook on everything. It's a mindset. It's not a job, guys. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, there you go, 100%. That I just have, in I've been around, I've worked in commercials and stuff, never on a big level, and I've been around entertainment again, kind of my whole life. I was in some commercials when I was younger too, and the um, that's a big thing is work ethic. I meet a lot of people that are really talented, and I'm like I know I'm not, I know I'm not Bernard Porter or somebody X, Y, or Z, but like, man, for God's sakes, get back to me. You know what I mean? Follow through. Like I have to kind of chase people half the time. Now, sometimes I might be chasing them because they don't necessarily want to be pursued, but a lot of times it's just like, man, it just talent alone isn't going to do it. You've got to have connections and drive and everything.
Everybody is an opportunity, you know. This karma thing, there's really something to it. Everybody you come in contact with, you have an opportunity in the sense of, I remember maybe 2 weeks ago, I was at a drugstore, and this young lady that was waiting on me at the counter, unfortunately, she wasn't a very beautiful girl, but she had beautiful hair, and you could tell that she takes great care of it. There had been a lot of time put into it, and I could tell she was also a little bit down from things. So I looked at her when she gave me, the item I'd requested. I said, your hair is absolutely gorgeous," and she just lit up. Well, thank you,
Hmm.
sir. And as I exited the store, the manager came out and he said, "Excuse me, I thought I had left something." He
Uh huh.
said, he said, "Thank you." He
That's
didn't
yeah.
explain more, but I knew what he
Hmm.
meant. He heard
Yeah.
me, and he
Right.
knew exactly why I did it. That's an opportunity because let me give you some insight, guys, on what Bernard Porter has figured out on planet Earth.
Hey,
Okay?
Bernard, bring yourself in a little closer too. I
Okay.
think we've got you. Yeah, let's get you framed up in the middle there a little bit better.
Yeah.
Move a little
Thank
to
you.
your right, I think.
Let me give you the most beneficial thing that I've learned in my 60 years. I just turned 60 years old.
Congratulations. You
Thank
look
you.
great, man.
And I'm in great health. I'm healthier than I've ever been. I've got 5 adult kids that are all rock stars in their own way, and they're not in the music industry, they're in different sectors. I've got a grandson. I'm married to a gorgeous woman. God has blessed me beyond anything I could ever imagine. And I work for Him. That's who I
Mm.
work for. And I'm proud to say that because in this time, it's people like you and me that are out there trying to help people and educate people in a world right now that needs it so badly, so bad. We got some serious things going on right now. We've got divided this, divided that, and the more positive, the more love, the more things like that we can spread in this world and try to help these young people understand that we care about them, they have purpose. And do you know what your purpose is on this planet? I don't care if you're an actor, a director, an editor, whatever it may be, singer, songwriter, is to take the gifting that you've received, and we all have them, figure out what that is, hone those crafts and those gifts to the highest degree, and use them for good. Use them to help this place we call home. Okay? Because the Almighty is all about mathematics, degrees, temperature, distance, time. He created all that. Numbers. The Almighty created all that. Your corresponding action, here's where we go to the most important thing I've ever learned. Your corresponding action in your day with the things that you do in goodwill, the things that you do to bless people, the things that you do to help people, they're almost like brownie points that are being added up to you. And in the equation of the Almighty and the blessing, that equals blessing to you. It's not always money. It could be a good health test. It could be your mother feels better. It could be an opportunity. It could be somebody in your life. But what I have figured out, ladies and gentlemen, is it happens every single time. Even when I forget, He doesn't forget. Bernard, thank you for being on that wonderful talk show and talking about me. blessing. Boom.
Well,
That's it.
yeah, I am. I I really. It's hard for me to not um, want to just be in that place every day. The just I mean, like, if I could just do that some days, you know what I mean? Just make people feel good. Well, I got pretty lucky that I get to do what I'm doing at least an hour every night, and the point is to have fun and make people feel good. And I really do. I agree with you. I think my spiritual connection is, is going to come from a different place, but 100% giving people giving back to me has always been my thing. Like, since I was 12, you know what I mean? I have had this passion for um, making sure that whatever I do includes helping other people, um, doing what I can to make a difference. And I know that's something we talked about before the show here. And tell us a little bit about PCG, and because you mentioned that you wanted to have you want to be involved with a company that is doing some good too. So
Yeah, absolutely. 12 years ago, I was kind of at a place in my life. Um, we had sold a company, and I really was in a position to take any route I wanted to take. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I would never be able to retire. It's not what I do. I would go crazy.
hmm
So I kind of it was definitely a vision for this company. And the company, PCG, stands for Premier Career Guidance. And we put out a business model to help young artists learn their way through the business in a real world fashion of what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they're ready for, what they're not ready for. A logical approach on a very illogical business.
a
Okay?
very illogical business. That is, yeah, that's probably understated.
Yeah, exactly. And so, going back to the jungle model again, you know, I'm the jungle boy. So, been living in it my whole life. So, who is better qualified to help them? And it's not just about the music or the songwriting or the live show production or media training or getting back to bios you mentioned earlier. Bios are very important. Most people don't put enough weight on the bio. It needs to be well written. It needs to be well punctuated. Let me tell you why. Because the press is lazy. I've actually had a room full of reporters and I said, the press is lazy, and they all laughed at me because they knew I was right. When you can make it easy for them to write about you, and they can go where they can pull your bio, and it's so well written, it's to the point, it's exciting, it's impacting, where they can just cut and paste, change a word or two, and put their name on it and put it out in an article. Guess which one they're going to go for first? The one that's ready to go. They don't want to have to put the work in. They got too much going on. So you get a professional writer to work with you, to interview you, to put that together, because it is uber important in your career destiny to have that information where it pops, and it pops quick, because what else do we know? Attention spans are not there like they used to be.
Man, it is on that TikTok thing, and I say it like I don't know it. I know the damn thing. It is 2 seconds. 2 seconds. If you don't get drawn in 2 seconds, they're gone. They're swiped away, and that is that is a crazy thing. 45 seconds was the last I heard for just a straight video. Like a YouTube video. After 45 seconds, they're likely to drift apart. 45 seconds. My shows are an hour.
Yeah,
Like, we can't do it in 45 seconds, for God's sakes.
yeah. TikTok just surpassed YouTube in viewership as far as how long someone stays on the platform. Now,
Oh,
YouTube is
wow.
still a much bigger platform and search
hmm
engine, but they just surpassed that. That's quite an accomplishment for a company as young as they are. And there are artists that are getting record deals off of that,
hmm
just
Oh,
from
yeah.
the
Yeah.
impact that they're making out there. That's how important it is. Um, and they have their own communication, these kids, and the dances. They're speaking to each other. You know,
Right.
it's
Right, right. No, I mean it's there's a entire culture around TikTok, and if you want to be impactful, whether it's doing good or doing an entertainment program like I have with a with a mission, or you're coming, I mean you got to stay up on that stuff. And you kind of another interesting thing too about culture and the way things go used to be that if you had a problem with your computer, find a 12-year-old. They'll know everything about it. They'll know how to program it, take it down, tear it down, rebuild it, whatever. Now, though, that 12-year-old is 38, and that's the one you need to find because the 12-year-olds now or the 30-year-olds now, they just know how to install an app, and that's about it, right? So, the just the depth of understanding that you need to succeed in this world is more than installing an app.
I have
You've
a
got
young man who is a prodigy, and I deal with a lot of prodigies around the world. He
sure.
started with me when he was 12. When he was 12, he was like talking to a 25-year-old. When he was 14, he was like talking to a 30-year-old. He is now 17 years old. He's the head of my digital services department at 17.
That's
And
awesome.
he is doing so well in what he does for me that he has 22 automobiles. And I'm not
Wow.
talking about broken down Hondas. I'm
Uh huh.
talking about Porsches, Range Rovers, Ferraris, and he's only 17 years old. I had to call him before I went on my setup with you today. I had to get him
Uh
on the phone, and he's probably watching us right now. But
huh. Well,
you're absolutely right about that. I mean, it's just they get it quicker, they stay up with it, and I'm very fortunate to have him in my life.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And no, and being able to that's another thing too, I think, just in general, being able to, be open to and leverage other people, because there are so many people that want to I mean, there's just look, honestly, Bernard, like I have great musicians on this program and it is somewhat who is available, and some of them are some that I've found and and brought on the show. But there are a lot of talented people out there now. I think back in the day, you didn't have as many talented people because there wasn't this so many different routes, right? TikTok and Instagram and all of these things. But now you got to be able, the crowd is even bigger that you got to be able to kind of shine out of. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy because I don't even understand. Maybe our younger friends there that make or whatever platform they're on could answer this, but even on things like Instagram, there are thousands and thousands of people that have huge followings, and like I can't even figure out why. Like, and then like, what are they doing with it? I literally run into people because I'm always looking for guests. I see people that have a massive Instagram following and no bio link, nothing. I'm like, if I had that many followers and that many likes and that many steps, you got to believe I'm gonna have an industry behind me, and yeah, it's a weird playing field out
Well, within PCG Digital, we have a lot of growth strategies that you should look at to help you build, that type of audience because you deserve it. You're still doing what you did when you were younger. I didn't get a chance to say that. You're still
there.
continuing on that journey, and the people of today have so many advantages that I didn't have as a young person. YouTube, social media. I mean, literally, you can find anything on how to fix it on YouTube.
Right? Oh yeah, yeah,
Anything.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%. It is crazy what is available out there, and what's funny too the human condition. I often because I offer if you have a problem, I don't care who you are, DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to try to help. Usually it's around this business or live streaming or whatever, where I've got a little bit of expertise these days. But sometimes people just want to talk to somebody because I'm like, man, you could have Googled that, and figured it out because there's literally nothing that can happen that you can't Google it and figure out how to do it, and probably has a YouTube video to explain it. And yeah, it's a totally different world than when you were coming up. We'll get back to PCG a little bit too, but I want to make sure that we have time because I would like to kind of know a little bit about Bernard Porter and your career and your ties, connections, the work that you did kind of in the music industry. For God's sakes, you don't look 60. So,
Thank you.
but you know, been in it for 60 years. Give us some interesting stories or anecdotes or something about being in that business.
Well, I started out as a musician. I was a young prodigy musician. I ended up losing my father when I was 8 years old.
Hmm.
And actually, my father died in my presence. So it was a very hard thing to um, experience, and it
Hmm.
just
I would
stays
imagine
with
still
you.
today.
Yeah, still today. And so that put the family in a very much a hardship. So I didn't have, in any sense of the word, any type of normal childhood. I grew up very fast. My mother was probably more like my daughter than my mother. She was a wonderful mother, and I was a mama's boy. But I worried about my mother. My mother was a very beautiful woman. Everywhere we went, I used to remember people would just stop and look at her, and it created problems. It created problems during her marriage to my father because he was a very jealous man. And it wasn't, my mother used to even try to dumb it down because of her beauty. And so, because of that, and not having a father, and her getting attention everywhere, it was very hard for a young man, you know. Um, so she ended up meeting a soldier, and so I went from not having a father for a few years to getting a drill sergeant.
Oh, good Lord.
So you're talking about a wake up call.
Hmm.
And so we end up moving from Virginia to his hometown, and I'd never lived in the country before. And I'm talking about the hills of Kentucky. Uh, I was scared to death moving there, but
Mm.
I ended up falling in love with it and falling in love with country because we were a mile away from anybody, the next neighbor. My mother brought me a guitar, and that guitar became my best friend. And I played that guitar, my commitment, hours and hours and hours, 10,000 hours I had on that guitar. And I ended up winning the 4-H competition, talent competition for the state of Kentucky. And from that point, I went on a pretty wild ride. My mother became sick. They got divorced. We go back to Virginia. I ended up driving a car to Nashville when I was 14 years old without a license. And that was a 10-hour drive, by the way. I don't commend
You
this.
wanted to get there pretty bad, it
I
sounds like.
got there. I got an audition. I did homeschooling when it was done by the United States Mail. And my first major artist that I ever performed with was a lady by the name of Ronnie Stoneman, who was a bluegrass artist that performed on a show called Hee Haw.
Oh, sure.
And so I'd go out and do fairs with her, and I'd make income from that. And it was a novelty that I was such a prolific musician for and was so young. I remember she used to introduce me as Chet Atkins' worst nightmare, and uh, and it was just a novelty. It was this little kid playing a guitar almost bigger than him.
Sure.
But once again, I was very worldly. I wasn't like a normal 14-year-old at all. You know, I was used to living on my own. I was supporting my mother financially, going back and forth, and I'm very thankful for the favor that I had uh, from God that I survived all that. You know, one thing led to another. I got into doing my own bands. I got into building bands on the East Coast and booking other bands and making income. Always the entrepreneur. My talent got noticed by a company that was buying venues up and down the East Coast called Kassir Investments. And I used to admire the gentleman. He's still living, Nabil Kassir. I used to admire him because he was the most stylish man I'd ever seen. He had a presence about himself. He was very intimidating, and it wasn't because he was mean. He just had a presence. And I talked to him occasionally when he'd come in. I never saw him that often. But he came in one night and he said, as you know, we're acquiring a lot of properties on a lot of oceanfront property, venues, hotel lounges. I don't know a lot about the music industry, but I'd like to start a company and I'd like for you to be my partner. And at
Wow.
that and at that point, he said, I will pay you this much money. I will give you health insurance for your wife and new baby, and I'll help you buy a house. And I went, wow. And so within a weekend, I left the stage to the desk. The haircut, the clothes change, the suit, it all happened within about 72 hours. I did that for 3 years in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I had one venue outside of his venues. It was an old supper club that was run by an old Greek gentleman by the name of John Peros. And I used to go by and see John, and we booked acts like the Platters, the Drifters, Sam Vine, the hypnotist. You know, you had a nice dinner, you took your date, you watched a great show. So one night I was having dinner with Mr. Paris, and he said, Bernard, you know, you remind me of somebody that used to book this club about 25 years ago. He did what you did for me. I go, really? He said, he's in Hollywood right now, and he's doing really well. Would you like to meet him? I said, yeah, I would. He picks up the phone, calls him. I get on the phone with this gentleman. He said, any friend of John Paros's is a friend of mine. If you ever want to come out to Hollywood, come on out and be my guest. So within 2 weekends, I was in Hollywood, staying at this guy's house, hanging out with Jim Carrey, Damon Wayans, Sherman Helmsley, Mr. T, who he worked with all of them. And by the end of the weekend, he and his wife just really, we fell in love with each other. And he looked over at me at dinner, put his hand on my hand and said, would you like a job? And I said, yeah. So Hollywood, here I come. So the company was called Spotlight, and they were one of the premier companies in the world for comedians especially. And
Okay.
they brokered a lot of television deals. They booked corporate events with these comedians. So I went out to LA. Around that time, all of a sudden, this is in the early 90s, the riots break out. I don't know where LA is going at this point. It was bad. So the owner of the company decided that he was going to start a division in Nashville, which I already kind of knew, remember?
Hmm.
He said, do you want to go to Nashville and be part of that? I said, yeah. So I came to Nashville and opened up the Nashville division with him. I continued to work with him and do all the things that we did, booking the roster and corporate events, those types of things. And then I broke out into my own company called Big Fish Entertainment. And I wanted to be strictly in management. But I knew it was going to take time to find the right artists, those types of things.
Hmm.
So, and this is why I take every call that comes in. Because I got a cold call from a lady by the name of Sandra. And she called me and she said, I just looked you up in the yellow pages and saw that you were an entertainment agency, a brand new company. And she said, my boss has handed me something and I really don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? I said, I don't know. What are you trying to do? She said, I'm trying to book talent for our corporate convention at the Bonaventure Hotel in Los Angeles, which I was familiar with. And I said, well, what is the purpose of this? She said, this is where we have a company that's a book distribution company, and we're trying to lure all the other small publishers to utilize our services. So we're going to throw a party to put our company on the map. And so we need a party that's going to be just a gangbuster.
Hmm.
I said, well, let me think about it. I'll come back with you with some ideas. So I remember my mother was the biggest Little Richard fan in the world, and I had just seen something of him on the tube. And I went back at her and I said, what would you think about 50s rock and roll, get in your face, bigger than life, Little Richard? She said, I love it. Can you get him? I said, let me see. So I
Hey,
called,
Bernard, do me a favor.
go ahead.
Tilt down a little bit.
Yeah.
Just tilt down. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Because we've
Yeah.
been catching the ring light there,
Oh,
and I
sorry.
don't. I want you to look good.
Yeah.
Yep. Your head actually. Tilt your chin down.
There we go.
There you go. Perfect. 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 There you go.
So I called Dick Allen, who I knew at William Morris Agency in Beverly Hills, and said, "How much for Richard? This is what I'm trying to do." Richard was living at Sunset Hollywood on Sunset at the Hyatt House at the time. That's a whole nother story. So we end up securing Little Richard for this event, and because my mother loved him so much, and my mother wasn't with us at that time. My mother had already passed. I
Mhm.
decided with the technical writer and the catering writer that I wasn't going to mark through anything. Typically on these type of events, you tell them what you're going to give them and what you're not going to give them. A lot of times, depending on the stature of the artist, they'll say, okay, no worries. I gave
Right.
him everything, including the piano in his suite. He had a grand piano put in his suite to practice on. I gave him all the teas. I had a crew put together. It was completely seamless. He went on, busted. The show was unbelievable. People dancing on the tables. The CEO of the company is coming up and high fiving me. This is the greatest thing ever. All of a sudden, the road manager for Little Richard comes up and says, Little Richard wants to know and wants to meet the man that respected him here tonight because of the writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back, met with him. We just hit it off. He invited me to come back and have dinner. I went back and had dinner. And that started a 12-year relationship of me doing business with Little Richard. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars just off treating somebody respectfully, going in, having chemistry, him seeing my work ethic. And that led me to Jerry Lee Lewis. Because Jerry did a European tour with Jerry Lee Lewis, and Jerry was complaining about not having the right person. He said, you need to call Bernard. So I got a call from Jerry Lee Lewis at my house, and I thought it was a buddy of mine pranking me.
Doing an imitation, huh?
Yet I hung up on him.
Oh, good Lord.
And then he called back, and then I said, oh my God. I said, Mr. Lewis, I am so sorry. I have a friend of mine that he pranks me all the time. He's really
Uh-huh.
good at imitations. And so I fly down to Nesbitt, Mississippi, and I walk in there. Jerry Lee Lewis walks out with a pipe and a bathrobe. This was like a movie. And he said, I've heard a lot about you, and I want you to take over, son. And in my mind, I'm going, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Because, I knew the stigma. But how can you refuse? So I ended up managing Jerry Lee Lewis, and booking him for 2 years and have the greatest stories that you will ever imagine with him. Flying on a jet with him threatening to kill me, him pulling guns. I mean, just crazy stuff. But
He
what
was
you would,
not he was not for want of yeah, I have no know of these stories none like you do, but we all do know that they must be there because it's Jerry Lee Lewis. So,
yeah, so through all of this, and then I kind of resigned it for medical reasons at the end of 2 years because I was just so stressed out, and my doctor made me journal everything that I was doing and eating and situations at work, and I turned that journal in to him after 2 weeks of journaling. 2 weeks after he had reviewed it, he calls me up and says, I don't care how much money you're making, it's called stress, and if you don't stop it now, you're probably going to have a heart attack, Bernard. So that's all I had to hear. It was hard to walk away from the income, but it wasn't worth it for my health. And so from that point, I went in and started a management firm with the incredible Stan Moress, who is an iconic music manager. Everybody from Roy Rogers to Donna Summers to Gloria Estefan to most of the major country artists at that time he was managing. And he was a major mentor. We just lost Stan about a month ago.
hmm,
And what an icon. One of the top five guys that really transformed Nashville into big business for the music industry was Stan Moress. God bless his soul. I love him. I appreciate everything he taught me. And we started the consortium. We brought in Mike Martinovich, who used to be the head of Sony marketing, as another partner. We brought in Al Schiltz, who was a very well-known road manager that had Billy Ray Cyrus. For you young people, that's Miley Cyrus's daddy.
hey,
Um,
Miley Cyrus is probably old these days.
well,
I mean,
yeah,
she's been around for a
yeah, it
while.
is. I mean, time is just it's just flying, isn't it? But
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, Bernard, because I'm 55, so um, the like, I don't know, it was just been in the last few years, but I'm really, I no idea, but I've always been keenly aware of who's at the top of whatever, right? I mean, it just just this omnipresent thing about me, and now I'm like, oh. what? Like, who's that? Like, I've never heard of them. And it's just because it's just so far removed from my reality that I don't pay attention to it, like I did. But people will make fun of me because I will post up an artist, a pop artist, somebody real current on my Instagram or something, listening to them. They're like, dude, you're 55 years old. Why are you listening to pop music? Because I've been listening to pop music my whole life. I like pop music. I like, seeing the progression of pop music and like country music too, especially country music, I think. But, pop music, if you're listening for fun, that's great. But the story of the culture, what's happening right here and now, it's all there. It's in those words, right? It's in those songs, and that is something that I just urge people to do. You want to know what's going on with your kids? Listen to what they listen to, you know,
Well, you know
and
what?
and
It'll
and,
keep you
and
young
understand it.
too, my friend. It'll keep you
Yeah,
young. You made a
yeah.
comment about me not looking my age, and I get that a lot, and I work on that. I exercise, I diet, I read, exercise my mind. Um, I moisturize my skin. I get massages. I get facials. You got to take care of the temple, as it says. You
Well,
know.
I've always had this advantage for a long time, depending on from the eyes of a 16-year-old boy, looking like you're 20. You could buy, booze for your friends because the drinking age was only 18. But and so I always looked older. But now, I mean, I went gray early, real early, and so I always joke, yeah. I mean, I look great for 75. But anyway, but I want to key back in a little bit though on Nashville too, because we talked about that as well, and like I think that in a lot of ways, and this is just me, that Nashville it might be. I think it's got to be as important as just about anywhere else on the planet for music. I mean, because you don't just have country artists there. You've got every kind of musician is making music there, is recording music there. It's really kind of it's its own thing. But L.A. There's a lot of musicians in L.A. That are trying to make it in L.A. But I don't know. I'd argue maybe sometimes you think maybe you're better off going to Nashville.
Well, you know what? It truly is the music city, the music city of all genres. Now we have more musicians per capita than any place on the planet. We have more recording studios per capita than any place on the planet. It's not always the right thing to move here. Okay, you can't build market share here.
Mm.
Okay, if you're in your home area, I'm just talking specifically to artists trying to build their career. If you're from, let's say, Dallas, well, you have a chance to get into the media in Dallas with your
Gotcha.
story, with your press release. In Nashville, when you're going to Kroger and Garth Brooks is there getting his bread, it's too, the density of
Yeah,
musicians. It's just you're not
too
going to,
much to.
and you don't playing down on Broadway and all those honky tonks. It's not really the healthiest thing to do. Uh, Time can pass you by. There are a lot of bad habits that can come from that, being around the alcohol all the time. You have to be very disciplined in it if you're going to do it. I don't recommend that, but I do recommend coming here. This is the hub. You do your business here. You can do your recording here. Go out of here, and build the market share. Okay? So that's just
Yeah,
my,
that
my,
that
my
I think
view of
that,
that.
and I like that offering of that advice, to people, and the knowledge that you've acquired. You know what I mean? I you man, I tell you, I get people a lot that, yeah, I don't want to I don't want to say bad things about marketers, but I'm gonna talk about marketers, and especially like the small one man operation or whatever, all these things where they're trying to get you to buy into their thing and they give you little nuggets, but they're not that wise, right? But they want you to think they're wise nuggets because they want you to buy their program or become their client or whatever. But just that genuine feel that I get from you that you're just, you take a phone call from anybody, right? And if you can give them, some knowledge and you can help them out, that's going to be paid forward. And I just think that I really want to emphasize, this is just me personally, that for God's sakes, people, just be genuine. Give out,
Hmm.
good advice. You don't have to give out your damn company secret, for God's sakes, but don't tease people. You know what I mean? Be real, be genuine, because I'm not going to hire anybody that is, being less than genuine. And I think that even if you don't know that they're being less than genuine, I think people sense it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You can sense it. And when you've been around the block like you and I have, we can sum up things pretty quickly. And, use those gut instincts too. Here's the thing about the gut instinct. It will be right more than it's wrong. Just go with it. And if it's
Hmm.
wrong, there's wisdom to be learned from it. It's
Amen to that too, right? I mean, I don't want to sound like a bunch of, but well, a bunch, two middle-aged guys, telling everybody what to do, because certainly that's not what we should do. But that idea of, yeah, go with the gut. I can't, hopefully it's not too many times, but I have definitely been shit. I should have just done what I knew I should have done. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Instead of overthinking it or whatever, just go with it. But and then I like that little gem after that, which is even if you fail, even if the gut wasn't right or the timing was wrong and the gut was still right, the find the truth in the failure, recover, redo it. And even to myself sometimes I'm like, God damn it. Excuse me. Sorry. I
that's okay.
do swear a bit. I'll take that back. The the even if it just, yeah, trust yourself, get the knowledge, right? Like you said, play the 10,000 hours on the guitar, right? Be alert, be aware, make the connections and understanding. But yeah, trust yourself because um, it's the best source for who you are, right? The best person to make a decision about you is going to be you. And I think being able to, be comfortable with that, it makes a big difference.
And don't be afraid to ask. When
There
somebody
you go.
asks me, even though they can go online and research me, but when somebody asks me for references, I go, well, that's really smart of you. I'm glad to provide that to you. But in this industry, for some reason, there's a certain group of people that they get offended by that.
Hmm.
And I think it's smart business. I tend to find people after they've gone through a horrific situation in the entertainment business.
Hmm.
And I always go back and I ask them, well, how did you feel when that was going on? Before you decided to do that, before you decided to sign that agreement, how did you feel? Do you remember? And they go, yeah, I didn't quite feel right about it. Well, why did you sign it? I don't know. I don't know. Then I say, if you were going to buy a multi-million-dollar home and you were interviewing builders, wouldn't you ask that builder, can I see some examples of your work? Yeah. Why didn't you do that in this business? I don't
Yeah.
know. And it's smart people I'm talking to here.
Right.
But
Right.
something about the entertainment industry, people don't have the right mindset and it gets them in hot water. Use
Well, I
your
mean,
head.
yeah, there is such a oh my gosh, and look, you touched on a little bit too, the dark side of things, in entertainment, and there is so much. I mean, it's neat. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Like I've had a couple of, of my 15 minutes in my life. It's really amazing, right? To be able to get that attention and it feels great and everything. But that in those moments, it's like I tell my 8-year-old, like impulse control, dude. You've got to be able in those moments that are crazy to just be steady, steady yourself and get through it successfully because it's great when people are throwing a contract in front of you. I'm sure with what looks like a lot of money. And I'll tell you a quick story too. I had a friend who was in oh, what did they used to call it? But he was a record promoter with radio stations. Remember when they used to do that?
Radio promotion.
Yeah, radio promotion. So he had a girlfriend. Her name, well, I don't want to say her name, but she really good, really talented. And this was just at the time where iTunes and all of that was just starting to kind of shake up the industry a little bit. And so you weren't seeing people getting paid up front so much anymore, right? It was that time when the industry was saying, "Well, yeah, we'll sign you and we'll put you on tour, but you're going to owe us all that money afterwards." You know what I mean? And they sign a contract and think we're going to be superstars, and all of a sudden they're not getting paid; they're paying the record company or whatever. But he got her like 900,000 bucks uh, up front, and she did her first album with Peter Gabriel,
Wow.
and yeah, and I mean, it didn't go anywhere. And my point is like, it doesn't matter who's behind you and who produced you. Um, there's just no guarantee. And I just know from that, I just always felt, because I knew them well enough, that I think they made mistakes, that I think, like you said, from the gut, that they just went the wrong way. You know what I mean? They should have just. I mean, it's great that Peter Gabriel did it. I'm sure it was a great experience. She got close to $1 million. I'm sure they're doing fine, but she might have been better off with, somebody else that produced that first album. You know what I mean? That maybe knew her better or something. But I really, I do. I'm sorry, I'm keeping on this, but really believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, and do it, because it's you that's going to make it. It's you that's got to get on the stage every night. And man, if you're not happy with your contract and getting on that stage, that audience is going to know it pretty fast.
You know what? And it's a tough business, whether it be the acting business, any form of entertainment. It's a very tough industry to be in, and you have to treat it like a roller coaster because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs, highs and lows. I don't care who it is. I don't care what level artist it is. Beyonce, highs and lows, just bigger
It's going to happen.
highs.
Mm-hmm.
We're all on it. And
Right.
that's exactly why you need to treat it exactly like you would ride a roller coaster. Even on the low turns, keep the hands up, keep smiling, because you know you're gonna go up again. It's a cycle.
Uh huh. It
Keep
is a
that
cycle.
positive, have fun, enjoy it. It's a calling. If you don't feel that calling and have that passion, that's what it takes to
Every
stick it
day,
through.
every second. Yeah.
What
I,
I've found is the people that do stick with it, do the hard work, stay focused, have integrity, usually do find some placement within that world. It may not be exactly where you hope for. It might
right.
be a whole different angle that you like even better sometimes.
Right. Right. Well, and we get that too, because I'm in a lot of conversations with filmmakers, and I kind of have this. Just it kind of landed that way, probably because the first few people that would come on my show, and I thank those folks every day, appreciate them so much, but they're working professionals in Hollywood. So a guy like Gavin Booth, who's been on my show a couple of times, Gavin is an amazing filmmaker. He makes fantastic films, and he makes features, and I think he's probably got a pretty good life as a director, but nobody's going to know who Gavin Booth is, where he is right now, unless maybe you see his film or something on Netflix. But he's not like, you don't know him as Steven Spielberg or whatever. But he makes a really good living, I'm assuming. I know several people like that in Hollywood. I know a
Hmm.
guy that does the soundstage for 3 shows at Paramount. Like, he's the head of sound for 3, current TV shows at Paramount. That's a damn good job, right? And he makes movies. He has always wanted to make movies, but his plan B became his plan A, which was having a kick ass job at Paramount, right? Which is not what he necessarily thought he would be doing. And he is making films. So I 100%, you just dig into it. You may not know where you're going to land. You might not be the guy that Bernard Porter mentions, Garth Brooks, in the grocery store, for the story that you're telling. But you could be the guy that signs the next Garth Brooks, or
Yeah.
the person that does X, Y, or Z. But get into, yeah. I mean, 100%. Just dig, fight, hustle, be genuine, and be real, and be who you are, because everybody does that too. I want to be the next, influencer, or whatever. What do I need to do? Be yourself. And if people like that, you'll be the next influencer. You can't become Logan Paul or whatever this schmuck is that's at the top. Excuse me, Mr. Paul, please come on the show. Haha. But anyway, I mean, whoever the top dog is, in this dog eat dog, YouTube entertainment world. Um, I don't know. It's just it's kind of a crazy thing.
And cherish those relationships. I
I
mean,
do. I do.
right now in my life, those relationships that I've built over time in all different sectors, from book publishers to people that go after streaming opportunities, to people that are agents, people that are other managers, just people that are doctors. I've
Sure.
got some of the greatest friends in the world, and it because I've respected those relationships, a lot of times opportunities come because they know Bernard.
Right. Right, right, right. Be that connector too. The
Uh, and that's greatly benefited my life because of that. Life is about relationships both laterally and horizontally. I want you to think about that for a second. Both here on this planet,
I got you.
yeah.
Yeah. The Okay, so you are. Wait a minute. I just. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hold on a second. I should have done this before. Let me just set a little timer here so I remember to, because I want to wrap us up at the top of the hour so we can add. We can put this together for Instagram. But I need about 10 minutes here, and then we can keep going if you want to. But the what is the if you could give so here let's talk about independent artists a little bit because I know a lot of independent artists and 100% too just want to say cultivate those relationships, be genuine. I have Bernard. I almost say this every show now, and I can't physically show it because I'm using that phone as my camera here. But a year ago or less, when I was doing this, if you clicked on my world clock on my it did carry over to this phone too. But if you clicked on my world clock on my iPhone, it just have New York, Chicago, and Cupertino or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that was on there. But I've got just on this phone here, and more than this: London, Berlin, Paris, Stockholm, Lagos, Tehran, Singapore, Sydney, and Tokyo. And I've added a few more than that. And those are all people that I am pretty darn close with that I have met over the course of the last year and developed fantastic, relationships that have
Wow.
connected me to all kinds of people. And I literally now wake up in the morning and I'm like, what time is it? Where? Because I want to talk to one of my friends. You know what I mean? And are they asleep? Are they awake? Would they take my call or whatever? It's totally changed my life that way, and I can't wait till this damn COVID stuff is over so I can go visit some of them and
Mm-hmm.
do some live remotes with them as well. I think that would be really fun. But I wanted to just swing back to your roller coaster because I love that metaphor because when I was homeless and had not discovered yet that I was bipolar, right? I didn't know that I was bipolar. Um, as I was going through that journey of from homelessness and discovering I was bipolar to the road back, and even in the last 10 years, to try and get to where I am, I use that same descriptor because I realized that when I'm going down, 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 that's a signal to me to remember that you are going to go up, right? So when you're going down, that reminds me that it will come back up, right? And as I'm going up and I'm getting near the top and I'm peaking, I'm like, now remember, it's going to go down, right? You need to be ready because you're peaking right now and it's going to drop. And I kind of learned how to regulate myself that way by trying to watch that. And it is a wave. Life is a wave. You can't stop that up and down thing. It's not possible, but you need to understand it. And I love that's what you use there. That's just an aside, but that's really cool.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I really live what I preach. I mean, it starts, when does it start, guys? It starts from the moment your feet hit the floor in the morning. Okay? I'm it's going to be a great day. I'm going to have a
Hmm.
great week. I'm going to make a difference today. I'm going to be positive today. You know, we all have those negative things around us. You
Did
know,
you? I'm curious. Is that something that you cultivated in
yes,
yourself? Yeah,
yes.
right. And it would be great if you were born that way. That's fine. But
No, I wasn't
I
born that
do
way. I was born a very rough road, really no focus or direction. Um, my mother did what she could do. I love my mother was a
sure.
great woman, but I had to learn a lot of this stuff on my own, and through listening to mentors, having great mentors in my life, and listening to them. So important, guys.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I like to Bernard. I like your attitude of of talking to the people, of addressing the people, of being there, for people. And you've got this attitude of of sharing and giving your ideas out there. And I think that's absolutely fantastic because we're going to wrap this up for Instagram, though. I really want to be able to give you a couple of minutes to kind of tell us about what PCG, is kind of doing with artists and maybe why, people might want to look at PCG because there are there'll be musicians and stuff that they're going to watch this show. So talk to them for a
Sure.
second.
Well, PCG, Premier Career Guidance, was designed to educate the artist, develop the artist, prepare the artist for a realistic career in this business, to understand the what, where, when, how, the business of music, how you make money, how to use best practice in promoting yourself. Because if you're, it is definitely, you mentioned independent artists. It is definitely the time of the independent artists. You know, you have every advantage to you that anybody else does with the social platforms that are out there today. You know, it's all about you doing one thing. And I'm talking to my creative people now. I don't care if you're an artist, an actor, anybody that's doing something to project a talent. You know what your job really is? Is to do one thing. Is to move this right here. When you can move this with your music, when you can move this with your writing, when you can move this with your script, when you can move this with your acting performance, then you've done something. Because the people may not be educated about your craft, but within every human on this planet, they have a buttoned up music or acting or technical uh, executive in them, and it's called their heart. And when it's touched and it's moved, it can create a reaction that they hire, they follow, they call, they subscribe, they like, they purchase, they go see. That's what it can do. That's the power of it. So, first of all, understand what your job is.
I like that. Yeah. Dig into it and know it well. Again, same thing. Like it seems so. Again, and I don't want to sound like this dude that knows everything, but just the observations of you talked about. I think we talked about this off camera, but a lot of just the divide in the world and everything that's going on. But I would just urge everybody to you know sit down and talk to people sometimes. You know what I mean? Take a chance, that with somebody different and get to know them. So when you are an artist with PCG, you're basically, I suppose, what you're doing is you're trying to kind of prepare them. They got to have some talent, obviously, right? I mean,
They have to have talent. I'm looking for the top 5% and maybe
there you go.
3% of the world talent that's out there. And I'm living out my aspirations. You know what I really wanted to be when I was coming up? A doctor.
Ah,
But I knew I was worldly enough to know that that was not in the cards for me.
that
I
was
knew
not going to be able to come together.
it just I didn't the financial responsibility, the investment, the school, it wasn't there. Okay, but what I've realized through this company is that is exactly what I am. I'm just a different kind of doctor. So when I look at someone's career, when I look at their talent, I'm able to prescribe the things that they need to enhance that because I see it. I know it. I know it when I see it. I know what to do. I know the right when and where. And I apply the right team to that career to help that artist grow to its highest level. So hopefully opportunity can come to that artist. Good visibility brings opportunity, both good and
Good
bad.
visibility brings opportunity. That's
Good,
something
good
folks
and
should
bad.
remember.
Good and bad. You get visibility out there, you know, the wolves and angels are coming out after you. But the problem is there's more wolves trying to
Uh
take
huh.
advantage of you than there are
Woo.
angels trying to help you.
You tell this little tiny dude on this little tiny corner of the internet, I can tell you that's gospel right there because I've already experienced that. Right. So, yeah, that is really, really good advice. We got like 40 seconds. I'm going to do a wrap for Instagram. We'll stay. And, so look, folks, this is Bernard Porter and I'm Revolution McKinnis. This is RevMac Live, the big interview. We're on Haps TV. If you're watching this on Instagram, follow Bernard and I both and share this out with people. I mean, just that last nugget right there, every musician should hear. So if you know somebody that's a musician, get them to watch this show. We got 8 seconds, sir. Say a quick goodbye.
Hey, glad you're here with me. Check more out at www.pcgartistdevelopment.com. TBI.com.
Fantastic. Peace be with you and namaste. All right, we're still here.
We're
But at
still
least
here,
that way
buddy.
it'll make it easier in the editing. I when I forget to do that little oh man, I have a great interview. Her name is Amon Lee, and she is a reporter. She's in Hong Kong, and she
Wow.
has been around since the uprisings, a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic reporter, and it was so awesome to have her on the show. And that thing I went an hour and 22 minutes before I realized, shit, I needed to close that off, for Instagram so I could, get it up there. And I've still been trying to figure out what 22 minutes I can take out of that really fun interview so I can put it on Instagram, because I just can't decide. I'm like, what am I going to cut? We had so much fun, but I'm going to have to cut 22 minutes to get it up there. So that's why we did that little bit of a wrap. But okay, artists. And so here, I say this all the time. Don't put people on the spot. But it's so nice when I got you on here. You can't say no, but you can. But I'm just saying. But
Right.
what I really would like to do too, I'd love to have you back and bring a couple of these folks if you want, and let's hear them play out on the show. The nice thing about this platform is if they can do something where it's acoustic or a fairly simple setup, you know what I mean, where we can hear them well. I wouldn't certainly want to have a full blown band probably trying to pump it through the live stream, but I would love to be able to have a few of your musicians on here. You
We
don't have to say yes or
absolutely,
no.
no, no, I'll say yes right now.
Okay.
Visibility. We're always looking for
Yeah,
visibility
exactly.
outlets.
I just think it would be fun. We've got Christy Huff, who's I look. I love all my musicians, and I'm not gonna rank any one of them as who's better or nothing. But one of the fun stories about Christy Huff, who's been on here a few times, is she's now getting um, play on like Spotify, at a level that, isn't going to be necessarily impressive to the top people, but you can feel her rise up, right? And
Yeah.
she's getting that momentum going, and she's just pushing and going and going. She started to open up, and I don't know country acts like names well enough. I'm never been a country music person, but I'm very much into it because I have a lot of country music artists that come on here. But she's now opening for named, country people like at festivals and stuff. You know what I mean? So she's really getting there. So I would love to meet some of your artists and help them with my little bit of little space of the internet, and maybe somebody will catch it and listen to them on Spotify and tell their friends. You know what I mean? So I think that'll be a lot of fun.
No, absolutely. And I'd love to, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I'm always trying to serve. And one of my partners, Jackie Kapoor, who is Chinese, and she was one of the CFOs for Michael Bloomberg. So she was handling billions of dollars of
Good
investment
God, yeah.
capital. And she has a heart like mine, and she now has her own capital company, and they're booming. And she loves to help people with her. One of the smartest people I've ever known, and I would love to make that introduction just because the financial side of things, just some of her methods and
Oh yeah.
philosophies for that are just so important to the artistic community that unfortunately most of them don't put a focus on those things.
Right.
We're here to help you guys to become successful with whatever that is.
Sure. Well, that would be great. Hey, listen, Bert, I'll be honest with you. I'll be listening to that show and I'll be hosting it
Oh, I'm
because
always
one of
listening to her. I'm following her advice on a couple of things today,
yeah,
actually, and
I
she was
mean,
right.
yeah, that'd be great. And I'd make no bones about this. We have a big mission. I say we in the royal sense, but there are people that are invested in this. We have a big mission to bring voices to the platform that don't normally have a chance to be heard. So as I build this platform, and as I grow and make these relationships, and I keep poking a little bit higher every time, right? And I'm always a little. It's always so fun when I've poked a little higher to the next person and they answer me back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, good, we can have you on the show. And I've got a few people up there now. They're getting a little tougher, because they have agents and very busy schedules and stuff. But my point is, and people are like, dude, are you just all caught up in having famous people on the show? Well, I mean, I lived in New York for a long time. I can fanboy on people, but my point is the the popular people, the people that can drive the views, I love them, and I've made some great relationships. But the people that I want to be seen are going to be seen more if I have a popular show, right? If I have popular
Right.
people that can drive the views, and then I can bring. We had two fabulous women on the other day, Anna, Lydia, um, Monaco, and Denise Cruz, and they're both Latina filmmakers in Hollywood, both making a living in part at it, right? I don't know. I don't want to say that they're both 100%, but they're Latinas, super underrepresented, right? In Hollywood and in a lot of jobs, right? I mean, we know the reality of the world, right? And so being able to just have those two amazing women that are doing amazing work on my platform and other people get a chance to see them and maybe some Latina young ladies can think, "Oh, I could make it in Hollywood." That is why I do this. Don't get me wrong. I want to make bank. I want to make money. And I need to make money if I'm going to be able to do this every night. We were talking about that too before the camera. All the people I have to go through. Ooh, and I want to touch on this too with you, but all the people I have to kind of scroll through, right? To find the folks that would be a good fit for me. And I think we would be a good fit for them because I
Well, I
don't
can be
stop.
a great resource for you because I've got a lot of interesting people and
That's perfect.
that I think you'd be excited. And I wanted to
I
tell
appreciate
you
that.
that, I did a little digging on you before I decided to approach you with it.
Yeah, I
And
was
I,
going to ask you how yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
and I picked up on the fact that you are out there trying to do what you just said. And that's what drove me to say, yes, this is one of those things that I want to do.
That is really neat. I tell you what, I have a very new friend because whoo, we make deep connections really fast in this business kind of thing. I mean, it's the nature of it. I think of the way things go because when you find kindred spirits and you find people that think the way that you do, because I can't even now at my level here talk to some folks and try to tell them what I'm doing because they're like, I don't even understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? Because it
Right.
can be such a different kind of industry. And so it's hard to get advice, honestly, from people because they just, if I went to my regular banker, he's like, well, I don't know anything about that. You know what I mean? Like I like to help you, but it is the business of this business where I definitely need help. I mean, I've helped start and develop and run a nonprofit for 8 years, but it's not this business. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's fantastic. And you are the first person because you reached out to me, right? We had not had contact before.
No, not at all. I don't
Yeah. How
even
did
know
you
who.
find me?
Somebody, people send me stuff, and
Yeah.
one of my buddies sent me your show, and he said, Bernard, you should be on this show. And because of that, I went and I didn't look at it immediately, but I started
Uh huh.
digging and watching some of the episodes, and my friend was right. And Chad operates my social media too.
Yes. Yeah.
I asked him to reach out and see what, if he had any availability, and here we are.
I'm sorry. I because I'm getting a little emotional here because you know I work hard at doing what I'm doing, and now to have somebody that I didn't have to pull in, that
Yeah.
is a guy like you. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, that's really neat. I appreciate that too because I was curious how uh, how you found out about me, and it was just so neat to have somebody ask to be on the show. Because I'm the guy usually like
Yeah,
having
yeah.
to
Well, I
text
want to,
somebody
I
72
definitely want to
times.
help you with that. I definitely, I can. There are some very, very interesting people that I'm around that can give some great advice and value to your viewership out there, and that's what it's really all about. I mean, I surround
Yep.
myself with people that are smarter than me. That's always been one of my trade secrets.
Amen. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
That's
always
the same
say there's
thing.
a lot of truth there. Even if you look at your income level, it's
Mhm.
a result of the people that you're around.
Oh,
You know.
100%. And that's study after study would show that. There's no in a lot of ways in so many areas the people that you surround yourself are where you're going to be, right? And my dad always had this thing, buy the kind of the least expensive house in the nice neighborhood, and that always put his kids in good schools. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because if we'd have bought the nicest house in the other neighborhood, the school wasn't going to be as good. You know what I mean? I mean that was my dad's attitude all the time. We're going to expose you to the best we possibly can, so that you can be ready to do it. It's just like video. Record it in 4,000 in 4,000 in 4K, even if it's going to be 640 at the end because it's going to look better as you squeeze it, as you squeeze it down the pipe. So that is phenomenal, sir. I really appreciate that. And Chad's a great guy too, by the
Oh,
way.
he is.
I've
He's
had,
been with
I,
me for about 5 years, and he can do anything. And speaking of houses, we we're kind of empty. We're empty nesters finally with the five
uh-huh.
kids, and we downsized, and we ended up selling the big house, and we looked around, and my wife has always been a great lover of history and antiques and old properties, and what you're seeing here, this is a
Oh, well, I can
200,
widen it out a little bit, but
yeah, 200-year-old home, and it has 11 fireplaces.
11. Well, you had
11.
to heat the house, right? I mean, that's how
Well,
you heated
well,
the
in
house.
those times, there was no such
Yeah,
thing. I mean, you
right.
opened the windows to air condition and you ran fire. So every major room has a fireplace. And over the 200 years, a lot of very prominent people have lived here, which we can trace every one of them, which is kind of neat.
That's
And
cool.
you get the
200-year-old
name.
house.
Yeah, you get the name. It's on the historical register, and you get to name your house. My house is Porterhouse, 1833.
That
And
is really cool.
there's a chandelier, a corresponding chandelier that goes with every fireplace, and they have
Really?
history. And these
That's
things
wild.
are, some of them are hundreds of years old.
Sure. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Wait, are
it's,
you in Tennessee?
I'm in Tennessee,
You're in Tennessee?
and
Yeah.
it's a place of great beauty, and the walls are 2 feet thick, and she's withstood, built before the automobile, the telephone. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just crazy. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
always
yeah. I mean,
finding stuff too. So it's my new workout routine too, because I'm always walking around it. I'm always fixing things.
right? Well, I mean, my goodness, just the stories of the people that have lived there before. I have friends that live in Iowa, and they have a little funny thing in Iowa where you get the titles of everyone who's ever owned your home. It comes in a big old, like, their house is, well, in Dubuque, it's not quite as old as yours, but it's over 100, right? And they have this thick binder of different people, that have had control of that property over the years, and it's really neat because you can just look back and see, you know, a little bit about it. And obviously, it wasn't anybody famous, but having that history in the house, that sounds like that sounds like a fun thing and a fun project. How long have you been there?
We've been here since we moved in December the 24th.
Oh, so wow, so yeah,
Yeah.
it hasn't even been a year.
Yeah, but it's a responsibility too. I mean, you really, I mean, you know, you don't really ever own the house. You're the caretaker. I'm paying to
Sure,
be the caretaker for a period of time.
right. I
And
like that. Yeah,
what am I going to contribute to the house? Because I can look at different families that were here, what they contributed, like the last family, David Hill upgraded all the chandeliers, and he's a big serial collector of antiques, and he never even lived in it. This house was operating as a museum.
oh wow.
So you have to come see us.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I will be there. I will get. I I have this goal of doing a, again, screw COVID. We're gonna make this happen either way. But because I like this format of that we've got here of two people on the screen and we're in different places. But I would love to come down and sit in your living room sometime, and we'd still have this format, but sit across from each other or
Oh yeah.
something and do an interview because the connection you can get in real life. And I tell people whenever I'm ready to start the show, I always see my guests in front of me. I don't visualize them on the screen like this. And it's not
Hmm.
intentional. It's just the way that my mind is working. Because to me, this show is us just sitting in the living room talking. And for goodness sakes, I want to sit in some living rooms and just talk, and we can be live on the internet. So I'm going to get to Nashville just maybe so we can do that because I think that'd be fun.
Well, it's always interesting when I sit in the setting room, because in our main dining room, uh, there's a separate sliding doors, and they used to have the dinner with the wives
Mhm.
and kids, and then the men would adjourn to the
And
setting
goes,
room.
Yeah.
and they would shut the doors, and that was their social media. That was their talking about the news, talking. And President Polk
Uh
was
huh.
regularly over here in that room. So when I sit in that room with my glass of wine, sometimes I just sit back and go, God, would it have been incredible to know what was said? Because when you look at what he did historically, President Polk created the first national banking franchise. Before him, there were mom and pop banks all over America. He created a network of banks, which we're still using that system.
Sure.
And then he also is responsible for creating a lot of the states on the western part of the United States. What this guy did in one term in his presidency is remarkable. Go back and read up on him. His house is right behind me.
Ah, that's why he was over there all the
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
I
so,
like that.
so
Oh
it,
man, that is cool. I love. I'm definitely a big fan of history and those kind of stories for sure. I think. Well, I love New York. I mean, it always is going to be my favorite. I think North American city because when I went to New York, coming from the Midwest and being I think different than a lot of the Midwesters because of my interest in art and all of these things, and to come to a place like New York, even where my eighth grade teacher, and I've got a learning disability in written language and in mathematics, and so and I'm very outgoing, so the teachers could never understand. Well, you're so outgoing, you're so dynamic and everything. Why don't you just do your work? Well, I couldn't do it. I didn't know how to do it, right? I mean, because of the issues that I had. But when we went to New York, and my eighth grade art teacher was a galleried artist. You know what I mean? Like his paintings were in galleries in New York, and he said, um, "You can you can be an artist. It's okay." Because I would be
mhm.
constantly like wanting to talk about art and do art, but it's like I can't pursue it because I came from a community that was not what people did. And when I went to that place where there were more people kind of in my tribe in that sense, man, that made a big difference. So, I appreciate you for just giving to people on all levels and just again taking those phone calls. I like that attitude of I take every call. And gosh darn it, I mean I don't take calls in the same way, but look, even with my guests here, whether they're kind of famous or somebody that I think needs to be heard, I stay with them if they'll stay with me. And I always try to bring opportunity to people. You know what I mean? If it's possible, not because it's something that I want to do to get X, Y, or Z, because that will happen, but it's because it's what I want to do. I just think it's the way to do it. And I really feel like that's, what you're about too. So
Yeah, it's the way of the
really,
world. We want to have some type of legacy. The people that learned from us, I want them to be talking about me after I'm gone. They'll learn this from Bernard
well,
Porter,
you're going to have a tough time with competing with President Polk, but otherwise,
Yeah, that's right. For sure, buddy.
when they're looking at the 400 years into the future, I do want you to stand out as one of the homeowners, but President Polk's probably going to have you for that
Yeah,
whole
he's got
time.
me beat for sure.
Yeah, he's got you beat there, but that's really cool. Well, listen, it has just been an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you, and please give my good regards to Chad uh,
I
for uh,
will.
for doing this. I guess I'm sure he'll see it at some point, but it is really cool. And please, yeah, bring some musical guests, bring some folks that could talk business to musicians or whatever. I mean, the beautiful thing about this platform and the way that I'm doing it, we can talk about anything. You know what I mean? If it, if
Yeah,
it, if
that's what
it's
I kind of
interesting,
picked up about it. It's all has
yeah.
this. It has the same underlying effect on wanting to just give back and help people, though. But it's just different flavors of it. I
Well,
get
and
it.
that's the basis even of this platform. So Mark Goldman and David Newman and oh doggone it, Drew Shepard, the three co-founders of Habs, their idea. And so Mark Goldman is CEO. He's the CEO. He like started an entire television network in South America.
Wow.
David Newman was brought Anderson Cooper from behind the camera and put him in front of it. He was head of CNN, news for a few years, and he was also head of Disney Television. And then Drew Shepard's a big tech guy. And they came together to create this platform. I'm assuming, probably to make money, right? It's business. But
Sure.
their idea was to democratize, it's not the most perfect word, but it'll work for us, but to try to democratize this this media, from journalism to even what I'm doing, to make it available, to everybody. And I mean, again, if they're as big as YouTube someday, that'll be great. But I don't think that's their goal, right? Their goal is
Right.
to bring access to people that don't even necessarily always have access, to do it. Not that they are not doing a lot of other things, but that does match the spirit of what we're talking about here too. Even the HAPS platform itself. So, and please, if you've got anybody that ever wants to live stream, I always tell everybody, look, I'll produce your first 3 shows for you. No problem. Happy to do it, because if we can get you started in something you love, because I think this is a massive medium, man. Like, there's going to be a million people in China, and don't get me wrong, a living in China is less than a living here, but there's going to be, in the next couple of years, a million people in China making their living live streaming. Now, you just can't tell me that that is not going to be impactful in
Yeah,
other
it's
places,
coming.
right,
Get
in the
ready
world.
for it.
It
Yeah.
is. We're at the very beginning. We're at the very
Yeah.
beginning of it, and that's why I'm trying to be here at the front gate to say, hey, here I am.
Well, you're doing a great job. It's been such a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate the opportunity. Good luck to everyone out there, and I hope you've gained some good information from this experience. That's our purpose here tonight. And maybe next time you'll catch me after I haven't done 10 Zoom meetings. I'll be a little bit fresher. But
You were fine, my friend. This was great. I
okay.
Yeah, 10 Zoom meetings. I feel you. I feel you. The When I was doing my full-blown consulting before COVID kind of took a lot of things down, yes, you get Zoom fatigue. So go get some rest, and
You too, my friend. And God
listen
bless
to President.
everyone. Yeah, absolutely. I'll listen to what the president whispers to me tonight. And
Exactly. You read my mind right there. You give me a text in the morning. Tell me what President Polk said. That is fantastic, Bernard.
well, just
I
everybody check us out at pcgartistdevelopment.com. P is in Paul, C is in cat, G is in good, Premier Career Guidance, PCG Artist Development, and just best wishes, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernard. I'll actually type that in after I close
Okay,
out the show
beautiful.
here. What's
Beautiful.
going to happen is, because I think you're on a mobile, it'll just automatically disconnect you. So usually I try to say a word or two after the show, but I think we've wrapped it up pretty well. I'm just going to close out with both of us here. My name is Revolution McKinnis. You've been watching the big interview on HAPS TV. If you want to broadcast live, you could do it right from your phone. It'll take 5 minutes to sign up, and you are going. And I am a huge supporter of this platform. If you need anything, I'm around. Hit me up on IG. If you know anybody that is super interesting, could be yourself, hit me up on IG, and let's talk. Let's get you on the show. Again, Bernard, great to meet you, sir, and looking forward to the connection very much.
My pleasure, sir. Good night.
Good night, everybody. We will see you. I think Friday. I should know my schedule. Peace be with you, my friend, and namaste.